been questioning him whether a celebrity would eventually be the real coach of the national team and also be the facilitator of the national reform.
Well, I think much more than a national coach, but actually he's the new driving force behind China's sports reform. Notice I said sports reform rather than basketball reform.
Why would you say that?
Because, you know, in China, agriculture reform started earlier, you see. It's the first, and back to the year of 1978. That means almost 40 years ago. But what China's sports remained as the factory for the gold medal, factory for the national glory. And until after the Beijing Olympic Games, that is the 2008. So that is already 30 years later. Then the agriculture, industry, social, culture, and all the other field of the reform. So if we turn the clock back to 30 years ago, you are much easier to understand. You see, China's reform, one of the main aim is release all the resource from the national controlled hand and to the society.
We are going to into that heavy discussion a bit later. But for now, let's have Mr. Kyler joining us.
So much more than basketball.
Yes, much more than basketball. We're going to talk about Chinese reality later. Mr. Kyler, just about the simple fact that can a celebrity, basketball celebrity, be a great coach, be a great reformer or facilitator of changes in your industry? Can that be done?
Well, I think Yao as coach probably isn't the right answer because Yao just doesn't have any coaching pedigree. And when you're talking about the national team and competing against the best in the world, you want to have the best resources in the world. But Yao is a leader of the national team organization, I think is a really interesting thing, not only because he's got the experience at many levels, one as a player in China, one as a player in the NBA, a player on the international stage, but he also has access and relationships that he can leverage. Any coach in the world would pick up the phone for a Yao Ming and take many of the promises that Yao would make in terms of resources and commitment and where the team is going and take that very seriously. So I think Yao as kind of head of the national team makes a lot of sense. I think Yao as coach of the national team probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
All right, very calm judgment over there from Mr. Kyler. So what about the reform that both of you have been talking about here in China? Reform of the basketball? Well, the China Basketball Association, that at least is the name being translated into English, has come out with a two-step reform. Take a look at this.
The first step is the establishment of a commercial company in which the association will be the bigger stakeholder, taking 30% of the total share, and the 20 clubs will equally share the remaining 70%. The company will take over the business rights, including broadcasting and endorsement, from the association. And the second step is that the China Basketball Association will allow the newly established company to hold league games, which is critical in separating the management from the organization.
Okay, complicated? Yes, indeed. That's been going on for decades. Well, Mr. Xu, I promised you to come back to the heavy topic.
Yeah.
But here is the thing. One of the most important things about this discussion is whether Yao Ming is equipped with the right skills and capacity. At this point, he is leading that specific transitional team with another vice president of the association, more seasoned, more experienced, supposed to be, bureaucratically speaking at least. But Yao was earlier running a professional league, organizing more than a decade clubs together to get more rights coming from the association.
Yeah.
That does not necessarily succeed. So, Mr. Xu, maybe as a friend, but certainly as a sports commentator, will he succeed this time when he's doing it within the system?
Well, nobody knows. Even Yao Ming this afternoon, he said in the media briefing, he said, everything in my life just like taking shots. Nobody knows the shot will go through the net, but you have to take it. But actually, before
and you have to fight in order to take it.
Yeah. But he said, not only he himself, because that is a long story. Because I should tell two things in the background to understand the situation is much better. Because in China, originally there is the own driving force, that is the national, it's the administration center for basketball. Yes. So it's the Basketball Association is another name. because you have to play the international Olympic game. So when you go
Two
abroad,
brands, but same
two brands,
organization.
same organization, same staff. So that's why you say the reform plan is made by the administration center.
Right.
See, it protected the department interest rather than the investors' interest. But later, China opened half of its door to the society. Right. So the investors come in, they bring money here, but they have no rights to discuss or make decisions. That's the background for the reform.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Kyler, one of the points people say about Yao Ming is he had experienced 9 years playing in the NBA and was doing a great job as team member and also understanding the system. And yet, when he played with CBA, he only served 5 years. Yeah. So the question many also raise is, does he know China well enough than the American system that he will be able to change the Chinese system? Or he's only going to imitate what he learned from the US and put it here in China? Will that work, Mr. Kyler?
Well, I think if you can imitate the NBA, that's probably a good thing. They're having a lot of success right now, and I think what we're seeing, is at least the desire to kind of make the CBA more commercially available, put more power in the marketplace, put more power and more revenue into the ownership so that they can grow the business much like we see NBA franchises do. And Yao, I think, has this unique experience in that he was part of the CBA very early on, goes to the NBA and sees how it works and works well, comes back to own the Shanghai Sharks and sees where the problems are. And when you've got relationships in the NBA, you can leverage best practices. And look, everything in the NBA isn't going to work in China, but a lot of the things that do work in a market-based system like the NBA has, franchise-based system, allows owners to be creative and build a better product. And I think the one thing we're seeing is that Yao Ming wants to make a better CBA and make it more commercially available for everybody. And I think that's a good thing for Chinese basketball.
Right. Yao Ming has a lot of credibility here in China. The fans support him like crazy. And they were fighting against the bureaucrats, suggesting that he is inexperienced, and has not been working in the Chinese system. But Mr. Xu, one question extremely important. What can he do?
Well, he can do a lot of things. Yes.
He can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But a lot of people also go into the system with a lot of ambitions and eventually did not necessarily bring out the result. How important is Yao's experiment this time for the reform of basketball? And beyond that, as you just mentioned at the very beginning, Mr. Xu.
Yes, because now all the reform, they need it's not exactly a new leader. Actually, he also worked with the old administration centers and staff, because many of the staff members are Yao's friend. But all the reform need a new image and a new thinking, new experience, and new communication ways. So Yao Ming this time, he plays just like a bridge. As I said, when he go to NBA, I said he's the bridge between America and China. And now he's the bridge, and also he's the catalyst and to push the reform forward. But Yao also got the experience from his club, his commercial team. And Yao is the learning person. So he started read, a scholar's history book at the age of 16.
Okay.
To me, it's a surprise. So that's why I say Yao is the right person right now for the reform of the basketball.
I got the pleasure to WeChat a bit with Yao after the recent news, and he said to me, extremely humbled. That also indicates one personality of Yao, very Chinese, very Chinese, modest.
Yeah. But actually, he refused to take the chair and said, but that is only suggesting rumors. But the new staff of the Chinese Association will be selected in the coming March.
Yes.
So that is the 2 months later. But Yao said he wanted to be the deputy chairman rather than the chairman. But Yao Ming started everything earlier. Even his retirement is earlier.
We'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Mr. Kyler, you heard from Mr. Xu, who's an insider certainly here in the Chinese landscape. Given your knowledge of Yao and your impression I mean, after all, there's only Jackie Chan and Yao Ming, two biggest Chinese names, I guess, internationally for common Americans. How much do you think inspirations he can really draw from the fans and the supports he's been getting? How much voice will that really echo into the change of the system?
Well, as we say here in the United States, it takes one person to start a change, but it doesn't happen with one person. And I think having somebody that people will rally around, that people find very credible, and that's what you have in Yao Ming, is that his ideas are going to get taken seriously. And I think that's kind of the big part of it. And, you can't change a big industry as Chinese basketball all by yourself, but picking the right people and picking the people that share your vision, I think that's how real reform is going to come. And I think with Yao, you've got a very credible personality, a very experienced personality. As I said earlier, he's very well connected. It's not going to be hard for Yao to get an Adam Silver on the phone or to bring in big marketers to be part of this new CBA. And those are all the things that you're going to need. It's not just great ideas. You're going to need to have money behind it as well.
I certainly heard two supporters, at least with my program, Steve and also Ji Cheng. There for Yao. Looking at earlier some of footages of Yao playing on the basketball court, every time is so exciting. I'm sure that is necessarily going to also transform, hopefully, into the reform process. For now, before we go, best wishes for Yao. One sentence if you can share with Yao Ming. What would you say, Ji Cheng?
Just to think about his first game in NBA as scoreless, but later he's got a big jump. Yao is learning people. He learns everything quickly. So.
There's a fable over there already. And what about you, Steve?
Yao has been an ambassador and a caretaker of the game his entire career, and I think this is the next evolution of that for Yao. And I think if anybody is equipped to do it and do it well, it's probably Yao Ming.